Good evening, everybody. Welcome to WhatTheBuck.net. I am Old School, your host, and I'm going to check levels because they seem to be completely screwed up. Oh.
There we go.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to WhatTheBuck.net, where your host, Old School, is a moron and didn't have the mics unmuted because it's been about 7 years since we had a podcast. So we are kicking off tonight's season, really, for podcasts with a great show. We're fortunate enough to have in the studio Mark Cook, editor-in-chief of PewReport.com. Say hello, Mark.
Hello, Mark.
Of course. And, of course, our editor-in-chief, Jason Delatorre at WhatTheBuck.net.
Greetings and salutations.
Is it Torre or Tori?
Tori.
Why did he just call you Torre?
It works either way.
I call him JC. So,
I call him the comic book nerd. What do you think of that?
Well, you can call him whatever you want to. Anyway, we are here with WhatTheBuck.net. We're back on our podcast regimen. We're going to do things a little bit laid back tonight because, to be honest, training camp has just sort of kicked off. We don't have a whole lot of new stuff to talk about, but I know there are a number of things that people are very focused on during the off season that we never weighed in on, and I've got an interesting group of people here in the room with me who I'm sure will have varying opinions about those topics. But first, I want to thank the people who take care of us. I want to thank Steakhouse Elite. I want to thank Tito's Vodka. I want to thank Pepin Distributing, Don Q Rum, and of course our friends at Steps Towing for all of the things that they do. You guys know we just finished our backpack drive, and it was a smashing success. We ended up with 1,200 backpacks given out to various teachers throughout the Hillsborough County area, and the team that put that together was fantastic. All of you who donated, I think we had over 220 donors that got us the funds that we needed, and of course that was all seeded by the work that was done with Steps Towing and car shows for charity that got us the ability to do our bulk buy and really help those kids. Also, a big shout out to the Junior Buccaneers organization. Coach and the team over there were fantastic, helping us get those backpacks put together and distributed to the teachers here in the Hillsborough area.
How would you pronounce that if you were doing this drive in Wisconsin?
Pronounce what?
Backpack.
The backpack drive?
No, the backpack drive. It's
Ah.
not the greatest Saturday Night Live skits either.
Yep.
I mean, ever. The backpack shack.
I
know somebody that talked about that.
when was that actually on Saturday Night Live? Is the question that I would ask you,
83.
sir. 83?
Yeah. No.
I was 10. I don't think I could stay up for Saturday Night Live.
I'm older than you.
I think so.
But you have gray hair.
I do.
I am checking right now to see if we are going live. We are live in Facebook as well as in Mixler, so everything seems to be working, which is peculiar because normally things don't work like that. So it would be the backpack drive, apparently. I didn't realize that, but thank you for
the Packers do the backpack drive.
I gotcha. Well, now we know that Mark Cook is, in fact, the man of a million voices, and we will leverage those voices as we go through the program.
Only do a Wisconsin voice.
That's the only accent you do?
Only what I do.
The Bears.
Now, Jason, Mark and I have both had the advantage of being at training camp. You have not yet. You went to one session where I sat directly in front of you intentionally just to prove how dumb it was the way that things were laid out at training camp now for fans. And then I moved briefly. But what were your takeaways, actually? And then we'll get to Mark and I, because you got to one day. What was your high points, low points? What are the things you'd like to know more about? So that Mark and I may have had the ability. It's your phone that's sitting next to the mic cable. Yeah, Mark's over here doing this thing with his hands like we're not on camera, but we are on camera.
It's funny, we don't have these problems on the Pewter Nation podcast, JC. Perhaps you'd like to join us next week.
Oh, that's funny. You guys still got off of the one cell phone recording? You guys got someone to teach you how to use audio equipment. I remember that.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. It only took you guys watching me do it for 12 years to figure it out. Well done.
So I was very interested in seeing how the quarterbacks are still being able to work with the receivers, especially the way that they're splitting up the reps. And it was interesting. I thought both Fitz and Jameis looked pretty good. I mean,
What day were you there?
I was there on Saturday. Yeah.
You missed Thursday and Friday, where James did not look good at all. Awful.
Jameis looked to me in camp so far the way Jameis looks to me in camp, pretty much every camp, which is moments of joy and moments of despair.
But minus any type of personality.
Yeah, he's definitely muted.
I do not like this Jameis. I'm sorry, I'm stepping all over JC.
No, that's fine.
You step all over everyone on the show. It's fine. We like it. It's what we love about you.
Keep bringing me back.
I know. We love it, right? It's our style to do that, so that's totally good.
It was funny. My wife was like, "Are they actually going to let you talk this time?"
Oh, is that what your wife said? Man, she should come here and produce the show.
Last time because I wasn't with you, so.
It was Chris, right?
Yeah, he'll talk over you big time.
Chris.
He drinks a lot of beer.
Is it Chris?
Who was it? I don't know who you were with.
I don't remember.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you thought that the quarterbacks looked relatively good, both of them?
And Rojo is definitely a work in progress, without a doubt. I like the defensive line. The defensive line very impressive. I guess that was their first day in pads, was it? Or
That was open to public?
Sunday was.
Yeah.
Wait, no, we were off Sunday. I can't remember.
Yeah. One of the days where they were in full pads that you saw.
Yeah.
That was Sunday.
So
That's right. It was Sunday.
You liked what you saw to Rojo.
Yeah.
No,
I did not like what I saw at Rojo. It was I like what I saw to Peyton Barber. Peyton looked really good.
What are your thoughts about Rojo, Mark? Because everyone asks about Rojo. Obviously, he's the draft pick.
How would you say Peyton Barber if you're Olivia Stacy?
I don't know who Olivia Stacy is.
Oh my God. Do you know JC?
I know who she is. I don't know how she would say it.
She says Peyton. She forgets the T. But anyway.
Why does he know these obscure things? Good God.
The mind of a genius.
Yeah, exactly. So Rojo, this guy that's supposed to run the ball for us, what are your thoughts about him?
Just call him Ronald Jones.
We can't call him Rojo. You can
It's
call him
literally
John.
just one extra syllable. Why do we have to shorten everything?
Well, if you wanted to be really technical, Ronald Jones is second. So.
Well, we're not technical.
Well, you were being technical, asshole. You were being, that's what it comes down to. You just don't like Rojo.
No.
So
I don't like abbreviations.
Listen, Mama call him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay.
Well, it's like Trevor is calling Godwin Rod God. So I had to have him explain that to me because I didn't get what that was all
Well,
about.
we don't always get what Trevor does.
Yeah.
He just does things well. We just don't always understand it. We've learned not to question the genius.
The real question is, what do you think about Ronald?
Ronald?
Yes.
Which Ronald?
I hate you so much.
Rojo? What do you mean?
Hey-o!
Got you. Rojo, well, first of all, he's the focus of our training camp diary, so I'll be speaking to him tomorrow for another edition of that. Great guy.
Where can they get that?
They can get that on Joe Bucks? No.
Oh,
no,
come
no.
on, man.
SB Nate? No. I can't remember where you can get that. PewterReport.com.
Copy
Not the Pewter Report. If one more person says, Mark Hookup, the Pewter Report, I might snap. Really. It's not the Pewter Report. There is no the Pewter Report. It's pewterreport.com.
I'm going to go get thepewterreport.com now just to screw with you.
Don't call me the Pewter Report. It's not the. There's
Maybe
no
it
the in
should
front.
be.
We've only been 8 minutes into the show, and he's complained 6 of them.
I'm old.
You are a crotchety,
I'm
complaining
tired.
son of a bitch. You know that?
I have fluctuating blood sugar.
Oh, Lord, I got the sugars.
I've got barbecue sauce underneath my fingernails still. Forgot to wash my hands.
So could you tell us what you think about this running back, please?
I like Ronald Jones a lot. I do. I mean, it's funny because one of the things coming out of college was he only had 32 receptions at USC. We haven't seen him exactly excel at catching the ball out of the backfield. But when I brought that up to him on Sunday, he gave me a really dirty look. He said, "I'll be fine. Don't worry." I'm like, okay.
But didn't he drop another one today?
Yeah, but look, he can. He's got to be able to catch the football. Peyton Barber, and I've said this. People thought I was crazy, and I've done some fantasy football shows and things like that on Sirius, and they all want to know, how many yards is Rojo going to get? See that, Rojo?
You hate Rojo.
I hate it. Don't hate
JC,
him.
do you
Just
know that
hate
he
the name.
hates Rojo?
Yes. I think we got that.
Stop. So I don't like Rojo, but I like Ronald Jones the second, and he'll be fine. Peyton Barber is going to be the guy that's going to start the season as the primary ball carrier, and he's going to have to work his way in there. One of those things, and we know how Dirk is as far as trusting running backs. It took Peyton Barber 2 years for Dirk to trust him, essentially, right? Pass protection and be able to be versatile on third down.
Yeah.
And, that's where he's going to get his opportunities. Now, we also know, though, Dirk does this thing that I absolutely despise, too, where he likes to platoon these backs. Give a guy 2 series and bring somebody in for a whole series. Even if the guy who was in the first 2 series is having a good game. I'm of the old John McKay feeling that,
James Wilder running him into the ground.
the ball's not heavy. I mean, it's not that heavy. Just keep handing him the football. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it either. I mean, that's the thing. But anyway, that's Dirk's style. Fine. He's forgotten more about football than I'll know. I'll admit that. But anyway, so Peyton's going to get the bulk of the carries early, and Ronald Jones is going to have opportunity to be in on third down. But listen, don't count out Charles Sims, who this team really likes.
He's always loved. Trevor's always
This
loved him.
team still loves him. They really do.
And Jacquez Rogers has probably looked as solid as any veteran. I mean, he's very dependable. Dirk knows that he can trust him completely. He's not anything dynamic. But Dirk admitted, he said, listen, Ronald Jones is a guy on this team that we haven't had before. And this organization really hasn't had a guy with his explosiveness. I don't know, who would we say, work done maybe? A guy like that, that could, that you really genuinely worry about going to the house every time he touches the ball.
Maybe Cadillac. He had
healthy Cadillac.
Yeah. But I mean, it's been a long time. At least since Dirk's been here, they had anybody like him on the roster. So Dirk's excited about what he can do with him, but he's going to have to earn Dirk's trust. There's no question about that. Rojo's a good guy. Enjoy doing the training camp diary with him, and we'll have another edition of that probably on Saturday or Friday.
Has Rojo been doing any kind of kick return or punt return stuff?
I haven't really seen any of that. No.
Really?
No, primarily just ball carrier. And you can listen. You can see what people love about this guy when he hits the hole. I mean, it's 100 miles an hour. Not Michael Pittman 100 miles an hour, where it's just his feet going. You know what I mean?
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Right. It's but he hits the hole and he goes, and he's very decisive when he makes his cut, and then when he gets out in the open field, then he can make people miss too. So that's the dynamic that he brings that Peyton Barber doesn't. Although I will say this, Peyton Barber has lost some weight. I don't know that he's lost a lot of pound weight, but certainly some body fat. He looks quicker.
15 pounds, according to reports.
He looks a little different, this year as well. And certainly the motivation is there for him, right? I mean, here's a guy who's...
This is his shot.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he wants to be that guy that, he came into this league to be able to provide for his mother and his family. And everyone knows that second contract is usually where players make the money. So, and listen, there's nothing wrong with competition. I think it's going to make both these guys better. And I think they're both going to be able to coexist in that backfield if Dirk can figure out a way to use him. Because I don't necessarily think he found a way to use OJ and Cam last year perfectly. But let's see what he does this year.
He also didn't find a way to use Mike Evans last year or the end zone last year. I mean, let's not pretend he's found a lot of things.
They chose to suck.
Yeah. It wasn't the play calls.
No.
It was clearly.
Munkin said they chose to suck. And I hope he's including himself and Dirk when he says that, because there were some really questionable calls. Again, listen, we sit here and we're backseat drivers. And Derek, I know you've coached football too. I want to defend the play caller just a little bit in a sense. And again, Derek, you know this, because that 30 seconds or whatever the play clock is in high school football or even youth league football, it seems like it goes by in 10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's for something that doesn't even really matter that much. Now you're one of 32 guys in the world who does what you do, plus you're trying to manage the entire football operation in that 30 seconds, not just make a play call. It's not an easy thing to do. Again, when we're at home sitting on our couch or we're in that press box, we're like, why did he call this or why did he do that? It's real simple for us to come back and do that. But I will say this, and I think Dirk would say this, he's got to get better. He still has to get better.
Yeah, and I get the complexity of what he has to do. But some of that is of his own choice, right? He could separate some of those tasks should he choose to.
I like the idea of him bringing Munkin in as technically the offense coordinator, because that will allow him time to do a little bit more. But during game day, hopefully he will have Munkin in his ear, and we'll lean on Munkin a little bit more as far as making those play calls, because Todd can be, looking 2 plays ahead. Okay, it's 2nd and 10 right now. If we only get 3 yards here and it's 3rd and 7, what are we going to do? You know what I mean? And all of those things that you, as a play caller, you're trying to determine which hash mark are you on, this and that. And as Dirk has said, the worst view of a football field
is from the sideline. Yeah, and people give coordinators shit who go up to the press box. It's a universal amount of harassment, but it is absolutely smart to get that bird's eye view. And where I've seen coaching work well is when you have a head coach, and sometimes even at the coordinator level or D coordinator, who's got a staff that's up in the box and can say situationally what they're looking for. I want to run here. I want to go ISO here. Mike looks like he's hot here. And give them some color, and then let them pick which card to pull. Right? You give them the broad brushstrokes and let them say, okay, well, I've noticed this safety's cheating. I see what he's trying to say. He's trying to get up under that.
Even back in the day, Gruden used to do that too. He'd always call up to the box and find out, what are they running? What blitz are they running when I'm calling this particular play?
I mean, when I was coaching high school football, I was a JV offensive coordinator, but I helped with the varsity on Friday nights. But I was one of those guys up in the booth, and the coach offensive line, and the offensive line coach would be asking me, which way are they shading? You know what I mean? Are they lined up in a 1, a 3?
Exactly.
And all of those things. And that's even in the simple thing of high school arena. Certainly in the NFL, it's a little bit different and more complex. But they're trying to get that big picture, certainly. And they're taking pictures after every drive, and Dirk's looking through them, or Munkin will be looking through them. Okay, on that last drive, this is where the nose tackle was lined up. Why couldn't we run here? When you get a good double team, whatever it may be. People have, if you haven't coached football, it really is a chess match. It really is. And, you've got to win more than you lose. And unfortunately, Dirk hasn't won as many chess matches as he needs to.
Yeah.
We won't even get to Mike Smith in his chess match.
Well, I know that Dirk really bristles when you guys bring up, how are you going to get the ball to Mike and D-Jax and OJ and...
Dude, Dirk bristles when you say that the weather is nice. Like, I mean,
Dirk is a bristler.
he is a bristly son of a gun, and we talked about it his first season. Like we said, as soon as this thing turns a little bit south, this guy's going to be tough.
Yes, he's very salty. Yeah.
He is super salty. It's not just the salt and pepper on his chin that he's rocking this year, which certainly is looking pretty good. I think the ladies are enjoying it, but it's tough, man. You go to those press conferences, you guys, and you have to face him all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then, he every opportunity he gets a chance to give a little dig at us, he's certainly going to take it. I mean, he took a couple shots at me last year. He's already given a dig to Greg Allman this year.
Which I didn't get. Like, that question, you guys, the people watching, actually saw the presser. All Greg did was ask about Leonard Wester.
Yeah, I think that maybe Dirk had and I wasn't at that press conference. I was on the field interviewing players. But I think maybe Dirk had maybe mentioned the injury situation early in the press conference.
He did, but not about Leonard.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because Greg did ask when he came back, because he got there late. He was doing an interview. And he said, I don't know if you've already covered this, and he asked about Vita. He goes, yeah, I did. You should come on time. Like, he popped him right in the nose. Okay, like, your prerogative. He wasn't there at the beginning. But then he asked a legit question about an injury that wasn't covered. And I think what happened, and this is projection, so take it for what it's worth, he thought he had gotten out of not talking about that injury. Because he had 2 back-to-back good practices, right? And everyone who's watching it knows it. And I get it. Coach doesn't want anyone talking about names that no one else knows. Because that means people are going to be looking for those names.
Mm-hmm.
So it was
just never understood Dirk's aversion to talking about injuries. I mean, again, there's an injury report. Teams can, there's sources. There's, when a guy's injured, you have a general idea of what the injury is. And, I don't know. They're going to go target a guy because he's got a bad hip flexor or whatever. I don't know. I mean, maybe, but again, it's just like this. We don't want to show what we're doing in OTAs. You guys can't tweet, formations and things like that because, we want to be able to surprise our opponents. Again, have they forgotten there's this thing called preseason game film? I mean, you're going to see it. What are you?
But Mark,
I don't think Atlanta is worried about what Dirk's doing in March.
We all know that preseason doesn't matter. Everyone tells us that, right? It doesn't matter at all.
Right.
The practices don't matter. Really, they should just put on the uniforms and get out for game 1. That's exactly what they should do.
More interesting. But I understand. But it's I think Dirk doesn't like this is Dirk's least favorite thing to do is deal with media. There's no question about that. It's just not his thing at all. And I don't know how much Dirk was behind this new practice situation. The fact there were fewer open practices. I don't know if he had anything to do with that, but I don't think he necessarily minds not having a ton of people out there and the chaos that kind of goes along with it. But anyway. Sorry.
For anyone wondering what Mark's talking about with regards to that, you've heard me bitch about it on the video updates. Training camp is different this season. The Bucs have historically done a great job of running a training camp that's very fan-friendly, gives you tremendous access to the team. It's been sort of a hallmark ever since they came back from Disney. They've done a better job every year. It's something that, irrespective of how the season goes, the team has always done a fantastic job of. This year, with the opening of the indoor facility, they clearly had to deal with some different logistics. And they took the stands out for reasons that I'm not sure of, other than maybe aesthetics coming up the entryway to the indoor facility, which means you just have grass and then some mulch to stand in. I'm not sure that these two were connected, but I think they probably were in order to mitigate the risk of too many people. They controlled the supply of tickets, so you have fewer tickets available, but you're still 7 to 10 deep on a sideline, flat level, which means that if press is going to cover 11 on 11 or 7 on 7 if it's done on field 1, they're going to be standing or actually kneeling or sitting in front of someone, in most cases a child or someone in a wheelchair.
Or somebody very short like me.
Or someone very short like JC, right. So I don't like it. We talked to the Bucs about it. They weren't super happy about anyone questioning them about it. It did go better than I expected for open practice, but it just means that, like, I have no problem. Real media, the guys are out there paying their bills doing it. They've got to cover this stuff. I'm not going to block someone else who's out there for one day to see the team that they care about because I want to give a video update on what Mike looked like in a particular practice. I don't think it's better for anyone. I don't think it's particularly comfortable. I don't think it's more intimate. And I certainly don't care how the other teams in the league do it because that doesn't matter because this is my team. So, at any rate, I agree. I think Dirk dislikes and all of that shit.
Right.
And if I were a coach, I would too. We talked about it with Hard Knocks last year. I was like, well, why is Hard Knocks a problem? Because fuck you. I don't want people in here with cameras. I don't want people causing drama. I don't want any of that. And I was like, oh, it'll be no big deal. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Good call, everyone who said that last year. By the way, you were all wrong for anyone keeping track on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Now, we had a question about the right-hand side of the offensive line. And we'll go back to what you had to say, Jason. I'm sorry.
I'll probably forget by then, but that's okay.
You should take a note. Right-hand side of the offensive line, do either of you have concerns about that as opposed to the left-hand side of the offensive line particularly?
No.
You feel good about Damar? You feel good about insert guard here?
Well, insert guard, me and Caleb better not. Yeah,
Sure.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Well, it was interesting that they gave Kappa some first string reps today, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, and I think they're going to keep seeing exactly what they have. Ali Marpet was a aberration. That doesn't happen very often. Number one, you don't draft a guy from a school that small, and then
Right.
you turn around 3 years later or 4 years later and draft a guy from a school maybe even a little smaller. I don't know. I don't have to compare, but they're both very similar.
I know. I know. I'd never heard of Humboldt State before the draft.
And Ali actually performed better. I mean, they both looked really good during the week of Senior Bowl practices. Kappa didn't look great in the game. Ali looked really good in the game. So the feeling we get is they feel that Ali was more developed and more pro-ready to step right in. And I think they probably needed him to more than they do now, because I think I know they like Caleb a lot. They would love to keep Caleb as that swing guy because Caleb can play either tackle positions, either guard position. The only thing he hasn't done is snap the ball, and Dirk even said at the media breakfast over in Orlando, the owners meeting, that he'd probably do that. He's just a very versatile guy, and you need that guy that's dressed on Sundays that can go in at any position. But at the same time, Dirk doesn't have the luxury of gambling with a rookie from Humboldt State if you've got a guy that's better, in other words. And so I think it's Caleb's job to lose. But they're going to give Kappa as many reps and opportunities because, as we know, particularly on the offensive line, we saw it last year, you're going to have guys go down. You're going to have multiple guys go down at some point, usually in a season. So, there's I don't think they're counting on Kappa to start, but they are counting on him to be a guy ready to go, kind of as that next man up at the guard position if Ali or Caleb were to go down.
And I know DeMar was coming back from injury. How has he looked? Because I saw a few videos with JPP kind of just abusing him.
He's never really looked good in practices anyway. Okay. I mean, he's an older veteran guy too. I mean, when it's game time, when it's New Orleans, he'll be ready. I don't have any worries about DeMar Dodson, particularly about his health. I think he's fine. But DeMar always seems to get a little shin injury or a toenail injury about the second game of preseason, and sits out the last couple games. But I mean, he's a veteran guy and he can do that, right? I mean, he knows how to play football, and I think he's fine. I'm not worried about him on that side either. And the good news is this team feels like they have some capable backups at the tackle position with a Leonard Wester and a Cole Gardner and some of these other guys that are getting some opportunities. And they're not putting DeMar out there full time, taking every rep. They're giving these guys some opportunities to give DeMar time to rest, number one, and to make sure he's not going to have any kind of issues with his leg. But, again, they've got to be prepared on that offensive line because, again, they've got the skill positions, right? I think we all agree with that. And the big question mark last year was the running game, but was it the chicken? What came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it bad blocking or was it bad running? And you can debate it all day long. But they know that the offensive line, and I think Dirk understands, is going to be crucial to their success offensively this year because, again, you can have tremendous skill position players and have an awful offensive line. You're not going to win many football games unless you're Russell Wilson. But that's a unique situation.
Yeah. And I think Jason's moves in the offseason kind of told you what the Bucs thought the problem was. Bringing in Jensen, drafting Kappa, definitely putting more resources towards both lines. So
yeah, I still don't really understand the whole Marpet to guard. I mean, to center deal last year. Yeah. For them to give up on it so quickly. I thought he was a very good, above-average guard in the league, and so let's switch him over to center, which is more difficult to play and more responsibilities, a position he hadn't played before. Where he's helping make line calls and things like that. I understand a little bit why. Obviously, they wanted to get a little beefier up front. As much as we love Joe Hawley, he wasn't the biggest guy in the world, and he could get manhandled at times. So, but I do like the acquisition of Jensen. Jensen's not only going to be an upgrade at the position on the field for 16 games, he's going to be that guy that they've missed since Logan Mankins retired, because there wasn't a lot of accountability, in my opinion, last year in the offensive line. Nobody stood up and really was a leader. Joe Hawley was to a degree, but he wasn't even a starter last year, so it's hard to lead when you're sitting on the bench. I think Ryan Jensen is kind of, from what we've talked to some of the guys, has been a nice glue for that offensive line and that veteran leadership that this team kind of needed. And he sets a really good example as well, because he's a hard worker in practice.
He's like an interesting mix between, I like the Logan Mankins reference, but who the hell was the center? All the ink. Now I lost the name when I was waiting to say it. Played for the Bucks. Obviously, I'll look it up. Anyway, he was a tough nose. He was Joe Hawley, but a little bit better athlete. We had him for about 4 years. Now he does peanuts or something, custom peanuts in Orlando. Anyway, Jeff Fain had that, Hawley, I'm going to kick your ass if you do anything I don't like. And by the way, the ass I'll kick may be the guard standing next to me if you do something I don't like, right? And I was watching the offensive line the other day, and I've never been a huge Evan Smith guy. He's functional. He seems like a nice guy. I don't dislike him. I just feel as though when he's in, we miss plays. I just don't think he's got that left. But I watched him coach for 10 minutes of a period, right? As the coaches were coaching, he was coaching and executing the rep. So he would give instruction, then he would execute the rep. And while I thought that we lost a little bit physically with Hawley, I still always wanted Hawley on the field.
Right.
And I don't want Evan Smith going anywhere, because he can play 3 positions.
Yeah.
And if he's going to continue to make that offensive line better, to your point, I think that they've got to get that unit, that 5. And if they platoon a position on that line again, I swear to God, there should be ink wet on their resume. But yeah, I mean, I think that you've seen a tremendous move towards getting it better. And I love what I've seen out of Jensen so far. There was a great back-to-back series with him and JPP, the last practice I went to. And JPP whipped his ass on the first one. And the next time he tried a similar rip move on him, and Jensen drove him through the ground. Yeah. And it was great to see those two. And JPP, to me, and I don't know who yours is, Mark, but so far he's been probably the biggest highlight of camp. Not that I didn't know he was good.
I didn't realize.
Holy God, he's good.
I don't know if we think he's so good because of how bad the defensive ends have been this year, the last few years. But he is certainly as advertised, and is a dominant guy on the defensive line. Scott's all about, I love that they move him inside on the nickel rush. I'm like, no, don't create another Robert Ayers situation. The guy is got 76 sacks or whatever it is in his career, and he did play. He got some sacks at tackle earlier in his career with the Giants. But to me, you need that guy on the edge. And I understand if you move him inside, then you can bring Noah Spence in. You can be a little more flexible when it comes that way. But his skill set is an edge pass rusher, and I think that's where he's best suited. But we'll see how they utilize him. What I worry about with this defense, and I asked Mike Smith about this now this season, he didn't really answer me. Here's another thing, and you guys bear with me as I'm trying to explain this, and I'm tired and trying not to fall asleep here. When you have more talent, all right, do you have to take more chances, or can you just be like Monty Kiffin? Monty Kiffin played 4 defensive linemen, right? He didn't change up a lot of things. There weren't a ton of blitzes. He just said, our 11 are going to beat your 11, and they usually did. Now, again, Scott and I debate a little bit about this. Scott says, man, this just opens things up, right? You have so much more talent, it opens opportunity to blitz a lot more. I'm of the mindset, don't blitz unless you have to, right? Unless you can't get to the quarterback with your 4, that's when you blitz. Again, we'll see what Mike Smith wants to do about this. But my question to Mike was, does this allow you more flexibility to be more creative in your defense, or can you just play more of a base and just try and, win that way? And of course, Mike says, well, we're going to try and put the best 11 on the field and put them in the best situation and stuff like that. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the preseason. Anyway, the best acquisition I think we all agree with on defense was Brenton Buckner. Love that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If you expand it to coaching, without a doubt, the guy's got nothing but juice. He's smart. The attention to detail is phenomenal, and you guys know that I geek out on that sort of stuff. I went nuts about the hand towel drill from 2 years ago that I still think was good for foot placement on initial step that Coach Hayes brought in. I was watching some around the camp stuff on NFL Network the other day, and I think they were in Miami. Dallas. And they were doing essentially, clubs on the dummies and then going through. And it's so different because the way our team is using that drill, they're using a therapy band around their wrists, a very tight therapy band to keep your wrists about 6 inches apart. because Coach Buckner does not want wasted movement.
Right.
And so he wants you to use physics, essentially, to gain more strength with less wasted movement. So you have to keep your hands in tight, and he wants the hands to spread, and then he wants the shoulders to throw through to cause more impact with less arching and swinging, like a bad hook. If you've ever seen a boxer with a crappy hook, right, that's what he's talking about. And I watched Dallas do it, and their arms are coming way out here, and it's so sloppy. And it reminded me again how much I enjoy what I'm seeing at Coach Buckner, and I love how much he is getting in people's faces. Right? It was a one-on-one where it wasn't Will Golson. I've been picking on him a lot. It was someone else who got thrown to the ground by a backup tackle, and Buckner was like, "Ref, that would have been a penalty. That would have been a penalty, right?" And the ref's like, "No, no, that wouldn't have been a penalty." And they had a small argument about it. Not a bad argument.
Right.
He wanted to understand what was going on. But I agree with you. He's phenomenal. I think he's raised everyone's level.
You made a good point about non-wasted movements. I mean, I remember in the rookie minicamp, I think it was, when Vita Vea was there for the first time. And I don't remember the exact drill, but it was a situation where the defender was supposed to, there was a simulated running back, even though it really wasn't a running back. There was a spot he was supposed to get to. Two offensive linemen, which were actually defensive linemen, turned around as offensive linemen, to try and block. And he was to try and get through that double team. And Vita tended to want to go outside, or maybe if the guy's coming to Vita's right, Vita's trying to get around him left. And I remember Buckner just pulling him aside saying, what the heck are you doing? The quickest distance, right, is from point A to point B, whatever that cliche dealio is. And he says, the guy is there. Why are you trying to go here? There's where he is. I want you to go to that guy. And it's so simple, but it is something that gets lost in football sometimes. Same with your one back, Greg Schiano. I enjoyed his practices because they were so detail oriented. They went over tackling drills, till these guys were blue in the face. And I like the attention to detail that Brenton Buckner brings. And I was talking to Will Golson yesterday, just casually, I wouldn't say off the record, but I didn't have my recorder on, and we were talking about that. He says, I love it. That's what I need. And he says, I can respect this guy because not only did he play, he played well in the league, right? He wasn't a guy that bounced around for a couple of years. He was a very good football player for the Panthers for a long time. And something Brenton said in his introductory press conference that I liked was, when I tell, I don't remember who he said, but let's just use Will Golson, don't do it like this because that won't work. I can pull up film and show him where I tried it, and guess what? It didn't work. But then I can show him film how it does work. And so there is something to be said for that. Not all former players make good coaches, but some of them do, and I think Brenton Buckner is one of those guys that already have. And another thing William said is that you look at his track record and the guys that he's helped in the NFL, and you see the success that he's had with these guys, and it makes you want to work that much harder at trying to absorb and listen to what he says. He says, I have no problem with him yelling at us, getting honest and challenging us. He says, because that's what I need.
Now, if you don't mind me circling back to the way that they're interchanging the
Ask him, he's the boss.
You
mind?
Feel free to circle back.
The way they're interchanging the defensive linemen, I always thought that it was going to be Curry that was going to be inside. And is there a reason why?
Well, we've seen Curry some inside as well. JPP is a big man. I mean, he's bigger than Curry. And so I kind of understand it a little bit if you're going to move him inside. Listen, the Seattle Seahawks won a Super Bowl a few years ago by putting 4 defensive linemen on the field. They weren't necessarily a nose tackle, a 3 technique, and 2 ends. Yeah. It was their best 4 pass rushers. And I think that's what they want to try and do, get their best pass rushers on the field in passing situations. Now, the problem that comes up with that is, particularly in this division, Drew Brees is just as liable statistically to throw on first down as he is on third down, right? So that's a little more difficult. But when they do see trends and tendencies, and we know it's a 3rd and long situation where all teams are going to throw, unless it's Dirk who tries to run a draw on 3rd and 13. But
nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
So I think I see what they're doing with JPP. I think he would be a better guy if you're going to move somebody inside to rush the passer there, because he's just he's got a multitude of moves, but he can fight inside that what I call the refrigerator a little bit more, where he's got 2 guys on either side of it.
Well, the thing about him is he's got such a wingspan. Now, Curry does too. And if Curry wasn't on the field next to him, you'd be like, my God, look at the wingspan on this guy.
Yeah.
But then JPP steps up and it makes him look like his little brother.
Just stands out. I mean, this guy has done nothing but stand out. And I've already apologized on our Pewter Nation podcast, but I'll apologize again. I was one of those guys that was disappointed that he wasn't at OTAs. I think OTAs are important, particularly when you're a new player, to just show your guys, right? I'm part of this team. I didn't like it when Deshaun didn't show up a lot last year. He showed up more this year, but I didn't like it when he didn't show up a lot last year. Well, guess what? And so you got burned with Chris Baker last year, right? Who didn't show up for a lot of OTAs and then just sucked. Who cashed it and got the big deal? Forget about it. So you worry in your little scar thinking, man, I hope JPP's not just gonna ham at the end of my career, right? I've played 8 or 9 years, whatever it is. I've accomplished a lot. I've got a Super Bowl ring. That's not the case. He's working just as hard as anybody on the field. I'll tell you another guy though, and I'm sorry I'm taking up this whole conversation, but Gerald McCoy. I bet Scott Reynolds $50. Gerald McCoy has more sacks than JPP this year, particularly if they're going to move JPP to the inside.
Yeah, because who do you know?
Gerald McCoy is just, every year we say, oh, he's driven, he wants to make the playoffs, he's been in the league a long time. I just see a little different Gerald McCoy this year too. And you know what? He doesn't have to do it all. He doesn't feel like he has to do it all. And I think that's going to help him.
Whoa.
Sorry.
All right.
Interesting.
Sorry, I tried to reply and it caused a feedback loop.
There was an echo in here.
There was.
But I think Gerald McCoy's going to have it. I think if Gerald can stay healthy for 16 games, he's the 10 sack guy.
Yeah.
And you know what? They don't need JPP to get 15 and Gerald to get 12 and Vinny Curry to get 9. They just need 40 as a group, right? The Eagles won a Super Bowl last year, I think without a 1,000-yard receiver and without a 10-sack guy.
Yeah.
I know they didn't have a 10-sack guy on the defensive line, but they worked great as a unit. And I think that's something that's going to benefit Gerald McCoy. I think there's an opportunity for him to have his best season this year. He's motivated.
Ren in the chat room just brought up a really good point with regards to inside pressure with Gerald and JPP. We talk about every year with Drew Brees. The challenge, the way to make Drew Brees uncomfortable is inside pressure. And so Ren brings up, I think accurately, a great point of if you can get that pressure upfield, that negates a Drew Brees.
And maybe that's the game that JPP moves inside on.
Right.
With Cam Newton, you're certainly going to keep him outside.
You want edge contain.
So
now, one of the things that Buckner does differently, and a friend of mine who is an Atlanta fan asked me the question, is this going to help save Mike Smith's ass? Because Mike Smith is a lateral line guy. He wants contain, lateral. If we get there, we get there. Let's play defense and see if we can out-scheme and do those things. Even though we had jokingly said in practice the other day when Mike Evans caught a pass with no one within 8 yards of him, someone said, what defense is that? And I said, we called that base last year because that's pretty much what we ran.
I said it's Mike Smith coverage.
So the interesting thing is Buckner is all about upfield. And you remember the old phrase, or I think it was Sapp, you say it, we would tackle the running back on the way to the quarterback.
Yeah.
Buckner is all about the first 3 steps.
Yeah.
First 3 steps set up your first move, but you already have your second move in mind. And if you don't get through on your second move, you're already beat. That play is over.
I'll tell you, there was some frustration among defensive line players last year with Jay Hayes coaching. Number one, making the line calls from the sideline right before the play, not allowing the guys to have a lot of input there. But also, and we saw guys go rogue at times last year because of that. But also, and Warren Sapp was the guy who told me this. Warren told me, he hated what Jay Hayes taught as far as a lot of lateral movement on the defensive line before you penetrated.
Right,
went up
you danced.
And he said you got the quickest 3 technique in the league, and you're asking him to do a shuffle step before he could go get the quarterback. He said that's ridiculous. It makes no sense at all. And Jay Hayes was the guy that fell on the sword for it.
Now, we had a couple of questions while we were having this conversation. JC, did you get the answer to the question you wanted to ask?
Yeah.
You circled back? Okay.
I like to circle back.
Sure.
Circling back is fun.
It's sometimes it's better than circling forward. That's more complicated. VH3. Do you like that? You don't like that? Vernon Hargraves? You want me to call Vernon? What would you like me to call him? But before we answer that question, someone wanted to know how you are not wearing your Chargers Derwin James jersey on the show this evening.
Where's the camera?
Someone actually
still think it would have been a much better pick.
Someone actually corrected them and said you don't wear jerseys. You don't think people should wear jerseys.
Grown men should never wear jerseys.
So there you go.
If you're over 14, you should wear.
So there you have it. So someone defended you, but it was a very funny comment. But, what do you think, Vernon? Do you think Vernon's day one starter? I know he got dinged up a little bit, but he was right back out. Yeah. What are your thoughts about it?
He's had a tremendous first few days of camp. Yeah. He went through a series. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. I've already forgotten, but where he went up against Mike Evans, somebody else. There was 4 plays in a row, 4 different receivers. Godwin was one of them. Mike was one of them. They ended up with 0 catches out of it, and he had like 3 pass breakups in that. Not just he defended the receiver. I mean, he got his hands on the ball. he's a guy that, again, I think is motivated because he understands he's disappointed the last couple of years. Look, say what you want about Roberto Aguayo, but that was the same draft they drafted Vernon Hargraves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he could go down as one of Jason Light's worst first round picks if things don't pan out. But he's certainly looked much better.
And sometimes it takes a little while. I mean, Rondé didn't set the world on fire when he
They
first
drafted Brian Kelly to replace Rondé Barber.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. And again, I've mentioned this before on your podcast and on ours as well. But Greg Shannon told me one day, he said, "Let me tell you, other than quarterback, there's not a more difficult position to learn in the NFL than cornerback." And he was a firm believer in that. That's a very, very complex thing to learn. And and I agree with that. I don't, these guys that stepped in, and the kid from New Orleans last year, what's his name? I forgot. Yeah. I mean, those guys are, they don't happen. That doesn't happen very often. In other words, it takes a year or two, sometimes 3, for these guys to develop, which is good for Vernon because this is year 3. But he certainly looks like a different player. Now, let's see what happens when he gets on the field against New Orleans, gets burned for a touchdown. All of a sudden, does he go back in his shell and start playing the Gator way? I made it 43 minutes before I took a shot at the Gators. Yeah. 41 minutes, actually.
It's like 43.
Now, with that said, the young guys have been looking pretty good, though, right?
No, I agree. We all love Carlton Davis. Loved his attitude at his press conference, and when we talked to him after the draft, and the confidence level he had, his size. But MJ Stewart is a guy that's really probably shown more than Carlton Davis, and as a rookie. And Dirk told us yesterday, again, a couple of days ago, the reason that is because he's just so cerebral. Again, when you're trying to learn a new position, you're coming into the league, a lot of times you get bogged down just with the terminology, just the scheme of things, and it doesn't allow you to play naturally. MJ is such an intelligent guy, Dirk said, that those things, he's okay with those things. So now he can just focus on his play. I still really like what I've seen out of Carlton Davis as well. I don't know. Again,
he had a good day with Mike today, didn't he?
We met with the officials yesterday. Ed Hochuley's son, I can't remember his name, looks just like him, Sean, showed us all the new rules.
Holy obscure knowledge, JC. Well done, sir.
He's been in the league 5 years. His first as a referee this year, though, he informed us he does not have the same guns as his dad. By the way, I asked him how his dad was. His dad's like in Idaho right now, fly fishing somewhere in the RV with mom. So Ed's enjoying his retirement. But one of the points of emphasis, and I asked Sean this, I said, "Are you guys really going to do this?" Because every year you say the point of emphasis is no contact after 5 yards. And then what happens? First game comes along, you throw a ton of flags in the preseason. Then the season comes along and it's back to hand checking and all this stuff. Receivers pushing off, defenders, touching receivers. Are you really going to see some? No, this year we're really going to do it. So we'll see. But the thing is, that's what Carlton Davis does well, right? Is use his hands. And he's going to be a target, in my opinion, if he continues to do that. Because I've seen him with his hands on guys 10, 12 yards down the field. I've also seen him lock guys up at the line of scrimmage, though. What we talked about with him being able to play press man with his size, there was one particular play over the weekend where Cameron Brate split out wide. Carlton Davis got up in his face, and Cam did not get off of him. I mean, the guy can lock people up. He's really good. Now, I would not recommend Carlton Davis trying to get in Julio Jones' face because Julio will embarrass him.
Right.
I mean, he's still a rookie in the NFL, but he doesn't lack for confidence. And he is like, we talked about Ronald Jones being a guy like a player that this team hasn't had on the roster. I don't remember a cornerback in Buccaneer history. I'm going back to the days of Ricky Reynolds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of a big, long wingspan kind of guy, a Richard Sherman-esque kind of cornerback. And I like him a lot. I still think he's going to end up getting.
So they went after the kid from Vanderbilt to beat, but he never turned into Myron.
Lewis,
he never turned into it.
Yep.
He had one game where he did, and then he got beat, and then never recovered.
Yeah, he was.
What about Banks, Jonathan Banks? How big was he?
But he didn't have the, what's the right word? He had decent back and forward, but lateral he was not very good. His hips didn't turn very well. Carlton Davis is unique in the fact that he's very agile for a man of his. I mean, there's a reason defensive coordinators like smaller quarterbacks, right? If you're smaller and you're more compact, you can turn and maybe run a little bit better. The long, tall, I mean, when you've got more height on you, that's just more body to have to turn and trying to have recovery speed and all of those things. Carlton Davis is unique because he can play like a smaller cornerback with the bigger body. Again, he's still a rookie. We'll see how it goes. But right now, MJ Stewart probably is playing a little bit better than him.
Yep.
So Ren in the chat room gave us some updates on what was said in the press conference. Buckner has said that they are not leaning towards a 3-4 this year. They're going to be focused more on their 4-3.
How could they?
Well, they could do anything. They could do all sorts of dumb shit. They could choose not to throw. Never mind. I was going to get into the offensive game planning in the red zone again, and that's just not even fun to talk about anymore. There was a question: what does Dirk have to do this season to save his job? I mean, win what? That's legitimately the question. The question was 9 wins, 10 wins, playoffs. What's the number?
No, I mean, I think the caveat here is the Jameis Winston suspension too, right? That gives him a little bit of breathing room. If this team starts 0-3, they're not going to the playoffs. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Statistically, you look at teams that start 0-2 and the percentage is less than 10% to go to the playoffs. When you start 0-3, forget about it. It just doesn't happen. So this team needs to be 2-1. 1-2 at the absolute worst. 3-0 and the sky's the limit at this point. But 3-0, then all of a sudden there's the dilemma.
Then we have a discussion.
Yeah, then you have that discussion. But I think I think 8 games, 7 games, 7, 8 games. Again, what saved Dirk's job last year as much as anything, and there's no such thing as moral victories, right? But we've seen teams just when they get down, when they get out of the playoff race, just quit, right? Cash in. This team did not do that last year for Dirk Cutter, and they do love Dirk. They know he's an asshole, right? But they like him. He's their asshole.
That's fine. Yeah, and that's a totally legit thing. It's actually really important you brought it up because I tend to harp on the asshole side, but I also point out typically Bill Belichick's an asshole. Mm-hmm. When you're successful in an asshole, you're eccentric. When you lose and you're an asshole, you're unemployed. Right. That's a pretty big difference. But the point that you're bringing up, that the team rallies around him, that the team, like, listen, we've all had that uncle that was an asshole, but he was our asshole.
Exactly.
We can say whatever we wanted.
Yeah.
No one else can say a word to him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really interesting perspective. Now let's talk about the thing you just touched on. If you end up 3-0, and believe me, I am not looking into the tea leaves and seeing us going 3-0 necessarily, but let's just say, for argument's sake, you do end up 3-0. People have already asked, what do? Do you bring Jameis back in?
I think it depends, and again, I'll let JC tell you what he thinks as well, but I think it depends on how they won those 3 games. Mm-hmm. Because they very well...
On the scoreboard.
3-0, but what I'm saying is that they could very well go 3-0,
13-4,
and do it, with
if it's
10-9 type games. The defense just dominates.
Kitchen-esque victories.
If it's old buckball,
if Ryan Fitzpatrick is 3-0, but he's playing like Trent Dilfer did, then it's no question what happened.
Trent Dilfer for us, or Trent Dilfer when he won the Super Bowl? Oh wait, they're the same guy.
Right.
They're the same guy, exactly. But I mean, I think that's going to be the big factor. I mean, how well is Ryan Fitzpatrick playing in those 3 games? Again, if he's completing 52% of his passes and he's got 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, I don't even think it's a question. I will say this though, Dirk has always been, and we saw this with Doug Martin last year after he finished up his suspension at the beginning of last year. It was immediately Doug's job again, right? Mm-hmm. And Dirk has always said when a player's ready to come back in, whether it be injury or suspension, he's a starter for a reason, because he's the best guy. And I don't think, I think this team also knows the future is Jameis Winston. Or somebody else, but it's not Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, definitely. He said today, about Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's nice to have a 27-year veteran. And he jokes, but he's not that far off.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things, though, is because they have that short week after the Pittsburgh game, I wonder if they might consider waiting a week, because they have the bye week right after that. So maybe they have Winston not play in that Chicago game and then take over going forward from there.
Well, just like if they keep him in there, the fact that if Ryan's playing well, if Ryan's playing poor, then there's no question Jameis goes right there too. If they're 0-3, you gotta do something. Yeah. But I don't think they're going to go 0-3. I mean, I hate that the suspension is the first 3 games, right? I mean, you'd love for it to be when Brown's coming down and a couple other teams, but because I think the way they're going to win is to be efficient on offense and play well defensively. Yeah. But as much talent as they have on paper on this defense, I don't know that they're going to be able to snap their fingers week 1. They're just all going to be on the same page and performing where they need to be.
But can they be good enough to slow down Kamara and slow down that passing game and keep themselves in the ball game? So You
mean like they did last year?
Basically.
You mean just like they did last year with a lesser team? This is the thing I always find fascinating about the prognostication about. I just don't know how they're going to even line up against the New Orleans Saints. Wait a minute. I'm pretty sure they put a foot in their ass last year. So, the difference between the best team in the league and the worst team in the league is a sliver.
Absolutely.
And the difference, I love what Jameis does with football. I'm apparently in a minority, increasing minority, as it were. I like Fitz. I love having an aged vet, smart, good arm, not going to kill you with bad decisions. I feel bad for Ryan Griffin, to be honest, because I think we've invested time in Ryan. I think he throws a great football. Somehow he found arm strength. I just don't think he's got a shot in hell because we need the veteran presence.
Right.
So he's the odd man out, and I feel bad for him. But I don't think there's any question if Jameis is healthy. Jameis is the leader of this team. He's going to do things that Ryan Fitzpatrick just can't do.
Jameis wasn't a 4th-round draft pick. Jameis
Right.
was the number 1 overall draft pick.
Right.
And you're going to, and Dirk Cutter and Jason Light are tied to this guy. Yeah. And they're going to succeed or fail in their careers in the NFL based on how Jameis Winston plays. And having him on the bench with a 49-year-old man leading a quarterback is probably not the best thing to do.
Well, we'll see. John Gruden will be trying that tactic.
Yeah,
he'll bench his starter and find someone.
Good news is I was looking the other day because somebody asked in the mailbag, who are some quarterbacks the Bucs could bring in if, say, Ryan Fitzpatrick or Griffin were to get hurt. Bruce Gradkowski is available.
Dude, the Polish Pistol has ridden this. Listen, Sean King just got mad at us talking about him getting a check.
That
right?
was, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna go back to my pre-Pewter Report days when I was just a guy in the stands that would go buy a ticket. First game I took my son to, I think it was 2005. Gradkowski quarterbacking against the Bengals. Actually won that game. Michael Clayton had a late touchdown. Toward the end of the game, if not trying to play the game to win that game. But I would say that was my least favorite time for following this football team was the Bruce Gradkowski year and a half or whatever it was. I had zero confidence in that guy. It was just that was just a boring team too, man. That was just there was just nothing dynamic about it.
There was a 7-yard route getting thrown at some point.
Oh,
right. The pistol was short.
It was awful.
We had a question in the chat room, and they'd like us to weigh in on who has been doing better in training camp, Jameis or Fitz. I want to kind of redirect that question and see if you agree, Mark. Feel free to
circle back.
Feel free to just. I'm going to circle sideways this time.
Do it.
It's almost like when we were in elementary school and we would do-si-do.
Yeah.
When we learned how to square dance.
Yeah.
That's come in very handy.
I was going to say that's Polk County.
That's a Polk County. Oh, Jesus, yeah, Uptown, Hillsborough County.
Square dance, though.
Listen, it's because you guys were already married to your sisters. You weren't allowed to.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you. You put your left foot in. I hear you.
Yeah.
At any rate,
You didn't take it out.
you never do.
No.
It's hard for me to say who's doing better in camp because it vacillates so significantly. But one of the things I thought was hilarious in the beginning of training camp was because of the way the reps were distributed, there was this deluge of tweets and text messages I got of, look at what they're doing with Jameis. He's getting third team now. He's jumped all the way to third team now. This is how little the team cares about him. And then the next day he's taking first team reps. And then he's taking some... Guys, they mix this up. They have a plan. They also know they're going into the beginning of the season with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Ryan Griffin, right? These are the guys that have to get looks. Don't look for psychology and everything. I beg you, I implore you.
Dirk
Don't.
said it today. If you add up the reps, total amount of reps, Jameis is actually getting more reps than Ryan Fitzpatrick. Not by a lot, he said, by a little bit. And, yes, Ryan is getting the majority of the first team reps. But again, Dirk can't look at week 4. Dirk has to look at week 1. That's what he has to do as a guy who's on the hot seat. I mean, he's got to be as prepared as he can for the New Orleans Saints.
Damn it. Kurt had a question. Let me see what Kurt's question was.
Which Kurt is this?
You know which Kurt it is. Yes. Hold on a second. Suspension.
For another shrimp of the Barbie, Kurt. I love Austria.
Austria. Nice. Kurt, I'm sorry. Repeat your question over there. I lost it. I apologize. I think we may have covered it, though. Callum wants to know who do we think will make this, who will step up and become a key player for the Bucs. His money's on Justin Evans. Who do you think should be that guy that takes their game to another level? I thought Justin showed some good things last year. Is there someone that's maybe under the radar?
Justin's probably a good pick. Again, you got to go back to a year ago, and if you were to ask him, and it's something I was going to ask him today, and we ended up talking about something else, but, I'm just curious how much more comfortable he is. But you have to just think, it doesn't matter what job you're in, right? Whether you're selling insurance, whether you're selling cars, whether you're a football player. When you start, right, a year later, how much better are you in everything that we do in life? And, he played well, okay to well last year. I would say he played, I'll give him a 5 out of 10, right?
Yeah, he had his moments.
There's no reason he can't be a 7 or 8 this year.
Sure.
And even progress.
They can progress further, yeah.
Because again, I tell people all the time, whether they're riding, particularly with our interns and stuff, you're not going to wake up and be a better rider unless
You got to work at it.
You got to work at it. It just doesn't happen that way. Really, in anything in life, you just never wake up and epiphany. All of a sudden, I can sing, or I can play guitar, or I can ride, or I can sell cars. You get better every time you practice it. And he's had 365 days to practice this craft that he's working on, and he'll be better 365 days from now. But I think he's going to be. I think that's a good pick for a guy that is going to take his game to the next level. Either him or Chris Conti.
What about God? What about Godwin?
Suck it, everybody.
Yeah. What about Godwin though?
Oh, but he already has. I mean, this.
He's there. You think he's there?
Godwin's a beast.
This guy is Thomas Bassinger from the Tampa Bay Times. I don't always agree with him. In fact, I rarely agree with him. But
he talks about too much numbers and stats for you. It confuses you. You gloss over.
Yeah, that too. But he's a very liberal guy too. But
I know he's educated. There's a correlation there.
That's not true. There's a lot of dumb, educated people in this world. There's a lot.
You're so
There's
stupid.
a lot of smart, uneducated folks. But anyway, point is, Bassinger retweeted a catch that Godwin had again today. 2 days in a row, he's had our play of the day. Just phenomenal catches. But he said, this guy ended up being Jason Licht's best draft pick, in his time with Tampa Bay. Might go down as the best draft pick. I mean, he has that potential. He is a number one receiver in the making. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if he's always going to be that guy, or if they're 1A, 1B, him and Mike Evans. But he is a talented football player.
They've been playing him outside while they've been moving Jackson inside, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that's going to be the way that they're going to approach it in the season?
I think my thing is if there's one benefit to Ryan Fitzpatrick playing those first 3 games, it's going to force Dirk Cutter to utilize Deshaun Jackson, I think, in a better way, because Ryan Fitzpatrick's not going to drop back and try and keep the ball 60 yards down the field very often. He'll take his shots, but he's got about 50 yards in that arm, right, in the air, and that's it. So we've already seen Deshaun Jackson working more crossing routes, more comebacks, getting the ball in space.
Finally, right? Finally.
And his longest catches last year were those type of plays where he takes a 6-yard pass from Jameis Winston against the Patriots and goes 40 yards with it. Those are the things that.
Hold on, I have to stop here. You mean the guy who, because he's so fast, is always given a 12-yard cushion and the corner is always starting in his back pedal? Mm-hmm. We should maybe throw a quick slant or something to him where there's no one within 7 yards of him.
I'm not saying that.
We may need to go to the whiteboard and draw this shit up to make sure it makes sense to me.
I'm not questioning this offense.
And may we even use him in a jet sweep from time to time since he's so fast?
I'm not. Listen. Hey.
Dirk's going to be mad at you now.
Listen, Aurelius Ben is available, I'm sure. We could get him.
What's the buck?
Yeah, great.
.net, not .com, .net.
I have both of them now.
We changed it to .com because every day, even 10 years
It
later,
redirects you. It redirects you. Yeah, it shows how often you've done it.
Right.
The complaint with no reason.
I think after 10 years, I finally bookmarked you.
That was very, very nice of you. That showed that I was going to be around for a while when I got to a decade. Yeah.
You proved that maybe this guy's going to do something.
There was a question from the chat room. Apparently, Trevor said something about a shin or a chin injury. It was very confusing.
That was in their podcast.
Shin. Yeah. Bernard Hargrave damaged his shin. And we're like, his chin or his shin? He goes, I said it, it's shin. Shin.
I've been asked a number of times on Jason Reese. Any opinions on Jason Reese so far?
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, I got nothing on that.
Yeah, tight end, I believe, actually.
Well, and the problem with the tight end situation is that's a good group of 4.
It's a very good group.
I mean, if I was an unrestricted free agent that didn't get drafted and my agent
I would
called
not
me
go
and
to
goes,
Tampa.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Canadian football got anything going on? Because that's going to be a tough nut to crack. Although, listen, the last person in the world that I thought was going to make this football team was Alan Cross when he made it, right?
Yeah.
He drafted Danny Vitale. Alan Cross, nobody heard of this guy. He was basically a long snapper in Memphis or whatever he was. I don't know who was a long snapper, but he wasn't even a superstar for his college team. But I'll tell you real quick, when he made the team, I remember asking Mike Evans about him, and I asked him about Alan Cross. He goes, who? I said, Alan Cross. I said, Alan Cross, the tight end. He goes, oh, you mean Honcho?
Honcho.
So he didn't even
Mike
know his
Honcho.
name. Did not even know his name. Just knew him as Honcho. But he goes, you know what Honcho is good at? Mike didn't say this, but I'm saying this. Guys that understand situational football, guys in situations taking proper angles when they block, being able to see things, how things are going to happen. Rondé Barber was a perfect example of that, right? He knew what was going on in the field. Alan Cross is a very smart, intelligent football player. Will not come across that when you talk to him. He's as bumpkin as they come from Memphis. Good dude, great guy, but he is a very cerebral football player too, and he understands he's limited athletically, so he has to utilize that part of his skill set, the mental part of the game. But I just remember Mike was very serious because he just knows where to be, right? He knows how to block a guy. Okay, I'm supposed to block that. I hit this guy, he hits me. I hope I beat him. Allen is just very like a sniper in a sense with his blocking, and a very dependable guy, and the team really likes him. So he's always like, I'm not going to make the team this year, Dad. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to get cut. I hope I'm still here. And he has been cut and bounced around a little bit, but I think he's pretty safe this year. It would be tough for any of these young tight ends really to crack the lineup.
Yeah, I agree. I was talking to someone on the sideline about Allen.
That was a pretty good Alan Cross impression. If you were
it was solid. It was solid.
Bad.
I'd like to see you bowl, and I would really know if you guys were connected. But you've got to have guys on the team who are not afraid to do the dirty work and who will be where they're supposed to be every
glue
time.
Guys, as Dirk calls them. Adam Humphrey's a glue guy.
Yep.
Not going to be a 1,000-yard receiver in this offense. Not going to happen.
But
if you need him on your football team, Dirk said that specifically.
Yep. If he's supposed to be 5 yards inside of the hash, he's going to be 5 yards. He's not going to be 4.5. He's not going to be 5 1/4. Right, and that's a really important thing. And
I watch old games. I've got a library of old Buccaneer games. And JC, I may share one with you. I think I didn't bring my bag tonight. Never mind. Sorry. But I was watching a Bucs game against the Seattle Seahawks. It was 77 or 78. I can't remember. Steve Largent on the field. You look at that guy, and he's a Hall of Famer, right? But when you look at him, there's no way he should be nearly as good as he is. But he was such a perfect, precise route runner and was an intelligent guy. And I'm not comparing Adam Humphries to him, but what you just said, there's a huge difference in 4.5 and 5 yards. Mm-hmm. And Adam is a guy that's going to be there. And when the ball hits his hands, he's going to catch. Although it did seem drop one in practice, it just doesn't happen very often in the game.
It's rare in the game to have that happen. I mean, it's rare to get thrown, but still, if they throw it to him, he's going to catch it.
He had 600 yards last year. I didn't realize.
Holy
that.
Shit! Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no. I think I can't remember how many receptions he had, but I believe he had around 600 yards last year. Only one touchdown, but yeah.
Man, I would have lost that bet. No matter how you structured it to get to that number, I would have lost it.
I have to look it up now.
Yeah, validate that because that's some really good shit. That's fascinating. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate you moving that away. All right, we're almost to the hour. I know Mark's got some things to do tonight. I know JC came all the way over here. I want to remind you guys to follow Mark Cook. Get out to
from where? Where does JC live?
Wesley Chapel.
He lives out near the Polk County that Rick Brown lives in.
Yeah. Next to Ford's Garage, right?
631 yards on
Holy
61 receptions
crap.
last year.
That is
I would
amazing.
have had no idea.
And listen, Adam Humphries could be a 1,000-yard receiver with the Patriots next year.
Yeah.
I mean, in the right offense, he's
Absolutely.
He's just buried behind a lot of talent.
Yes, and they've got to figure out how to get the ball in the end zone with all that talent.
And Dirk doesn't throw a lot of those little 3-4 yard passes like Tom Brady has done well. I mean, Tom Brady can sling it long too, but what I'm saying is they get the ball in Edelman's hands or who's the other guy they had for a long time that ended up with 19 concussions. I can't remember.
The other Edelman.
Short white guy.
Yeah, the other short white guy.
The
guys, other Adam Humphries clone.
Those guys would have been 300-yard receivers in Dirk's offense, right?
Yeah, the talent that is there is amazing. We've talked about it before. There has to be cohesion on both lines. It's not about individuals. It's about them dancing together. The choreography has to be there. They have to be in concert. Ren said that he asked Coach Cutter today, I assume, if the right guard rotation was an option, and he said absolutely. I hope that Coach Cutter is just screwing with people, and that's not real, but it is what it is.
Well, I thought they did the left guard rotation.
They did left guard last year, but you put your left foot in, you put your left foot out. We've already gone over the hokey pokey of Hillsborough County.
But I think the reason why they did that was because they didn't have confidence in either dude.
Yeah, so what you should really do is just keep mixing it up, because that helps the guys on either side.
Yeah.
It's a fundamentally stupid idea.
Ajay Barima a few years ago because he cost the Buccaneers a playoff spot with that hold against the Oakland Raiders. The Buccaneers would have won that game and they would have had enough wins to go to the playoffs.
Yes.
I want to fight Evan Smith last year because people forget he got a hands to the face and a touchdown got called back against the Patriots on Monday night. And then, what's his face? Folk missed a field goal. So,
What's his face?
The clock is thickens.
The kicker does what kickers do.
Listen,
Listen, here's the
I was
thing.
not a fan of him.
They should
There's not
simply
many
ban
players that
kicking.
there haven't been many asshole players on this team since I've covered them full time, since 2011.
Folk was one.
Kind of a jerk. Didn't like him.
Wow.
What about Cantanzaro? How's he?
Great guy.
Yeah.
Best looking wife on the team too, by the way.
Kickers do that, man.
Yeah,
Shane,
it's
do
like-
you guys
I tried to
remember
tell that
Shane
to my
Graham?
son. I was like, dude. He's like, the chicks don't like kickers. I go, let me introduce you to Chandler's wife. She likes him a lot.
Do you guys remember Shane Graham?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, one of the ugliest football players ever. Made Dennis Johnson from the Celtics look attractive.
It wasn't bad Joakim Noah, though, was it?
Yes. Shane Graham was a very unattractive man. He was a less attractive you. I'm just kidding. He was a ginger, super pale.
Yeah.
Just terrible. My buddy was playing on the team. We went down to meet him after the game. They come out. This woman walks by, and everybody turns like it was a movie. The soundtrack slowed,
Mm-hmm.
and she walked by, and I was like, "Jen, who is that?" And he's like, "Oh, that's Graham's wife." I was like, "Graham, who? You only have one Graham. You have a kicker." He goes, "Yeah, the kicker."
Wow.
Get the fuck out of here.
We were at OTAs this year, their last day. I think it was their friends and family day, and I won't discuss who was discussing it, but somebody kept bringing up this blonde, and whoa, okay, there's a blonde. I had no idea, and then Chandler came off the field and gave her a big smooch right on the lips, and we're like, wow. Try to explain that to my son, who switched from kicker to linebacker this year. I don't know what you're doing, dude.
To get more women?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Interesting approach. All right. So, Mark, it's thepewterreport.com, correct? Is it? No, it's
I'm
not.
not talking to you guys. My
Pewterreport.com.
last podcast with Derek.
Superstar work over there. You guys continue to crush it, which is great. Love seeing you guys out there. You got a fantastic staff. The cover 3 from Trevor's fantastic. Scott's Fab 5. All of your work. The team continues to do just tireless effort. The Monday mailbag. I don't know where your claim to fame is the
I think
other articles.
He likes your bag.
I'm a huge fan of Mark's bag.
Yeah.
And my sack.
It's a small sack, but it's wonderful.
Sack's not bad. It's my grocery sack.
Speaking of sacks, JC Dellatorre, what can we expect from the What the Buck staff?
Oh, there's going to be a lot of good stuff this year. We're definitely going to be breaking down our opponents and looking at.
Our opponents, did he just say our?
Oh, this is where the real media makes
sorry,
fun
sorry.
of the fringe
Rather
media.
than say we all night.
Yes.
We got a good offensive line.
Yeah.
I
We
know.
got a good
Hey, listen,
Hey, I'd be good all night with not doing the weed stuff.
fuck not doing that. And all you got to do to be real media apparently is just misquote people, because that's apparently what real media does. We can play this game all day.
We don't do that.
All day this
You know
game
what
can
I
get
do?
played.
I don't. You can ask her. I don't go anywhere without a damn recorder.
But yeah,
If a person calls me, if a player calls me on the phone in the car, I'm recording it because you can't just scratch notes and remember. I mean, that's old school. Hubert Mizell. I remember watching him with the old sombrero when I was helping Scott out with the old Buccaneer magazine, and literally writing that shorthand, and I'd be like, how the hell can you read what he wrote? You know, he didn't use a recorder, and I don't remember him getting in trouble with misquoting people, but I just think you always need to have that recording. And when I've got to make room on my recorder, I go way back, months back, because I don't want to take a chance of
just in case.
just in case, certainly.
Makes sense. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining us on the podcast tonight. Thank our friends here for coming to the podcast tonight. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for the ribs tonight, by the way.
You're very welcome. Hopefully,
you
you
can eat Derek's ribs. Eat Derek's ribs. I was a little skeptical. I'm not gonna lie. Everyone thinks they can grill ribs. They're not my favorite part of the.
What is your favorite? Next time, I will make your favorite.
Oh, fried pork chop all day long with a little bit of fat on the side.
That's easy.
That's brilliant. That's the best part of it.
Brilliant simplicity. I can
My
appreciate
dad told
that.
me. My dad grew up obviously out in the country, and he finds it ironic that ribs are this specialty food because when he was a kid, that was the last thing they ate, right? When they butchered a hog, was the ribs. They're like, what do we have for dinner tonight,
What's
Mom?
left? Shit.
Well, there's a few ribs. There's a brain and ribs. Well, can you fry the brains? Can you scramble the brains? No, son, I'm gonna go ahead and cook these ribs. Oh, great. And now people like travel over and pay like $15 for a rack of ribs. And my dad just said, he'll eat them, don't get me wrong, he enjoys them, but no, he'll take every part of the pig too. I think he'll take a pickled pig's foot over a rib.
So did you ever have the pig's brain?
No, I haven't had pig's brain.
Okay.
Or the intestines, the lights as they call them.
I've had that.
Liver and lights. I like the liver, but not the lights.
I've had the lights, not the brain. What was I going to say? Oh, Brent wanted to say, because he came over here and helped with the audio for the Mevo setup, etc. He said he finally understands about the mirror in the bathroom that you would wax poetically about every year.
Nothing better when that son of a bitch is fogged up and I can't see myself when I walk by. But I mean, Ren's acting like he's George Clooney or something.
No, it was Brent. It wasn't Ren.
Oh,
It was.
okay, again, Brent. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, he was
Bradley
agreeing.
Cooper. Oh, he was agreeing with
He was
you.
agreeing with you, asshole. He is so grouchy, this guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll be back next week. If you see us out training camp, say hello. Everyone in the
Not
chat
for
room
me.
wants you to come by the tailgate. I've explained that you don't walk anywhere of significance.
Got bad peg legs. Kind of hard to walk.
But
But if
follow.
somebody wants to bring a golf cart, I will attend one this year.
We can get you a ride up on a golf cart. I
You
can't get
said
you right
that
out
for
there.
10 years. No one's brought me a golf cart.
I'll
No.
give you a ride in the haunted car if you want.
I can't get you right over there. I can get you right up from there.
Up from there, what does that mean?
Like if you're at our tailgate, you always can live out how far it is from the stadium,
Yeah.
which it's not.
It literally is 6 miles.
Oh, literally, the way they redefined literally to mean figuratively. Beautifully done.
True.
At any rate, at some point, Mark Cook may come to a tailgate. We just don't know.
Sorry, I'm a big TV star.
Oh, that's right, Channel 8.
Channel 8, man. Right, yeah.
It's going to be super big. I forgot. Were you
See-
talking to...
I'm third on that totem pole.
See, that's
My
why-
choice. I'm
that's-
in charge of the scheduling for that. And constantly go, why aren't you on Sunday night? I'm like, no, it's high definition.
That's why I wanted you to sit here, because I figured that, you're the big TV star, so the camera should be pointing toward.
No, I'm not a big TV star.
Hey, we do have to give a shout out to Callum's new baby boy, Edward Shaw. My man
Where's
Callum.
Callum at?
Callum's in the chat room.
I
I
know
don't know where he is
where.
geographically. Where in the world is Callum Shaw is the real question.
Sounds like Ireland.
He could be.
It's like 6 hours from here. Is he up at 3 a.m. listening to us?
Because he heard you were going to be on the show.
No, not surprising.
No, surprising. All right, we'll be back next week, guys. Thanks again to you guys. And follow us on whatthebuck.net for more information. And get out to peterreport.com and follow all the great stuff at peterreport.com. Thanks, and go Bucks.